Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
I was 28 when my mother passed away, with my sister Emily just 25. At the funeral, I saw Daniel, Emily's husband, in a completely new light. Until then, he had merely been my brother-in-law, a reserved yet dependable presence at family gatherings. But as I watched him remain steadfast at the funeral home late into the night, something shifted in my perception. That evening, as exhaustion and grief weighed heavily on everyone present, Daniel maintained his composure, his crisp shirt still unwrinkled despite the long hours. In the dimly lit lounge, where wisps of cigarette smoke created a melancholic atmosphere, he turned to me and said softly, "Ashley, you're truly alone now." Those words penetrated deeper than I could have anticipated. Fighting back tears, I turned away, but Daniel silently joined me. Together, we watched the smoke spiral upward, sharing a moment of unspoken understanding. In the weeks that followed, Emily grew increasingly distant from Daniel, their marriage seeming to unravel slowly. My heart ached watching their relationship deteriorate, but I couldn't help thinking about Daniel, imagining him alone in their house after work, mindlessly watching TV in silence. Without conscious intention, I found myself reaching out to him. What began as innocent check-ins evolved naturally. Though Daniel appeared surprised by my initial contact, he soon began initiating conversations himself. When Emily took a trip with her friends, leaving us both in Boston, I suggested dinner. There was no ulterior motive, just a shared loneliness that needed filling. We met at an intimate wine bar where conversation flowed from memories of mom to family stories. As the evening progressed, I discovered a witty, engaging side to Daniel I'd never known existed. Several glasses of wine later, the atmosphere shifted subtly but unmistakably. Looking directly into my eyes, he said in a voice barely above a whisper, "You must have been struggling too, Ashley, since your mother's passing." Words failed me, and I could only manage a nod. When his hand gently covered mine, I didn't resist. That night crossed boundaries I never thought I'd transgress, but the comfort I found in Daniel's arms temporarily eclipsed my grief. Morning brought with it crushing guilt. He was my sister's husband, my family by marriage. Yet there had been an authenticity to our connection that felt electric. The usually reserved Daniel had shown me a passion and tenderness I hadn't known he possessed. Subsequent meetings followed whenever Emily was away. During one such encounter, Daniel posed the question I'd been dreading: "What am I to Ashley?" Though the question terrified me, I couldn't deny my growing desire for our relationship to deepen. "I don't know," I lied, fully aware that I wanted Daniel and that he reciprocated those feelings. After that night, resistance became futile. What started as a mistake we tried to ignore blossomed into something neither of us could control. Even as Emily sank deeper into depression and grew more distant from Daniel, I couldn't, or wouldn't, stop myself from falling harder. Daniel's transformation in my presence was striking. His customary stoicism would melt away, replaced by genuine warmth and easy smiles I'd never witnessed before. Each such moment pulled me deeper into our forbidden relationship. When Emily announced an extended visit to their family home, I feigned casual indifference while my heart raced at the prospect of uninterrupted time with Daniel. The moment she left, I reached out. "What are you doing at home?" I texted. "Just watching TV." "You," he replied. "Nothing much," I answered vaguely. After a pregnant pause, his message appeared: "I miss you." Those 3 words sent my pulse racing. Taking a steadying breath, I responded simply, "Come see me." Within half an hour, he was at my door. That night required no words. Our eyes communicated everything necessary. As his arms encircled my waist and I melted into his embrace, the situation felt simultaneously wrong and absolutely right. We knew we should stop, yet neither of us wanted to. Our relationship intensified after that night. Dinner dates, nightcaps, and intimate conversations became our new normal. We grew increasingly dependent on each other, convincing ourselves we couldn't survive apart. When Daniel asked, "Do you think what we're doing is wrong?" I responded truthfully after careful consideration, "Would it be terrible to say it doesn't feel wrong?" His enigmatic smile accompanied his response, "I feel exactly the same." We maintained our affair as if it were the most natural thing in the world, though my anxiety grew with each passing day. How long could we sustain this deception? Despite knowing our relationship had an inevitable expiration date, I couldn't bear the emptiness I felt without Daniel. Everything changed when Emily called one day. "Sis, something feels off lately," she confided. My heart nearly stopped, but I managed to ask casually, "What do you mean?" "Daniel's been acting strange. He's barely affectionate anymore, and even when he's home, he seems somewhere else entirely." "Has he mentioned anything to you?" Panic rendered me momentarily speechless. But Emily's next revelation truly paralyzed me. I found some suspicious messages on his phone. They weren't meant for me. Fighting to keep my voice steady, I suggested, "Maybe they're work-related?" "No," Emily replied firmly. The tone was far too intimate. My mind raced. Were these my messages she'd discovered, or was there another woman? Strangely, the possibility of Daniel having other relationships terrified me more than being exposed. That evening, I confronted Daniel. "Is there someone else?" I asked point blank. He appeared startled before quickly denying it. "Of course not." "Why would you think that?" But as I studied his face, something felt amiss. His voice projected confidence, but his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Emily found messages I pressed. Messages that seemed romantic in nature. Daniel's momentary hesitation and the forced smile that followed told me everything. The devastating truth hit me. I wasn't unique in Daniel's life. A storm of emotions overwhelmed me: betrayal, jealousy, confusion. Should I maintain my trust in Daniel or end our relationship? I desperately wanted to search his phone, but knew I couldn't. What if Emily decided to investigate further? My thoughts spiraled. If Daniel had been involving himself with multiple women, what did that make our relationship? Yet whenever we met, these doubts would evaporate. His desire for me seemed genuine, and I remained powerless to resist. As time passed, Emily's relationship with Daniel continued deteriorating, while he maintained his distant demeanor at home. One night, after having a few drinks alone, I impulsively drove to their house. Finding it dark when Daniel should have been home sent up red flags. Then I saw it: Daniel's SUV turning into the street with a passenger. My heart constricted as I watched a woman laughing beside him. Though darkness obscured her features, the casual intimacy of their interaction was unmistakable. I fled the scene, my heart pounding and legs trembling. Later that night, I called him repeatedly. "Where are you?" I demanded when he finally answered. "Home," he replied. "Stop lying." After a heavy pause and weary sigh, he asked, "Ashley, where exactly are you?" His tone had changed completely, not just cold, but exhausted, as if dealing with me had become burdensome. "Who was that woman with you earlier?" I pressed. His prolonged silence preceded words that shattered my world. I stood there speechless, his cruel dismissal confirming my worst fears. I had never been special to Daniel, just another in his collection of conquests. Consumed by anger and betrayal, I fired off a text to Daniel. "What exactly are we?" The minutes ticked by without response. Finally, his message appeared, cold and definitive. "Let's just end it here." My world shattered in that instant. Though I wanted to hurl my phone against the wall, I managed one last desperate text. "Is that really all? You can just end everything so easily." Only silence followed. That night, I collapsed into uncontrollable sobs. Despite knowing our relationship had been morally wrong from the start, I had fallen hopelessly, irretrievably in love. The casual way Daniel discarded me felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Driven by a dangerous mix of heartbreak and obsession, I began tracking Daniel's movements, desperate to know his every action, encounter, and destination. Then came the moment that changed everything. I spotted Daniel with another woman, young, strikingly beautiful, and clearly adoring him. The way he smiled at her made my blood run cold. It was a warmth, an authenticity he'd never shown me. In that instant, rage crystallized into determination. If Daniel thought he could simply discard me and find happiness with someone new, he was gravely mistaken. With trembling fingers, I dialed Emily's number. "Emily, there's something you need to know." This wasn't just an end. It was the beginning of the revenge Daniel never expected. When Emily answered after 2 rings, her voice carried the weight of exhaustion. "Sis, what's going on?" I hesitated, the weight of familial loyalty briefly staying my hand. Emily was my baby sister, someone I should protect at all costs. But Daniel's betrayal had corroded my moral compass. Revenge consumed my thoughts like a poison. "Haven't you noticed Daniel acting differently lately?" Emily's silence spoke volumes before she sighed deeply. "I know. Honestly, I'm terrified. Daniel's become a stranger. He barely looks at me, hardly speaks, and I can feel him hiding things." "Sis, be honest with me. Do you think he's having an affair?" Her question made my heart race. Should I confess everything, our affair, its intensity, how far we'd gone? Or should I play the concerned sister, hinting at another woman? After careful consideration, I chose my words deliberately. "I'm not certain, but I recently saw Daniel with someone, a woman." Emily's voice turned to steel. "What?" Taking a steadying breath, I continued carefully. "It could be innocent, maybe a colleague or business contact. But something felt off." "Where did you see them?" I described the location truthfully, omitting only my own role in Daniel's deceptions. Emily's prolonged silence spoke volumes. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. "Sis, I'm terrified. What if there really is another woman? What am I supposed to do?" I suppressed a bitter laugh. I'd thought I was special to Daniel too, but we'd both been pawns in his game. "Emily, you need to know for sure. Check his phone." She inhaled sharply but didn't protest. Her hesitation revealed the depth of her suspicions. Isn't that crossing a line? What's worse, checking his phone or living as a fool while he cheats? I pressed, knowing she was already convinced. "Maybe you're right," she conceded. That night, I felt a strange mixture of anxiety and satisfaction. If Emily discovered Daniel's betrayals, his carefully constructed house of cards would finally collapse. He would pay for treating me like a disposable plaything. Emily's call came days later, her voice raw with emotion. "Sis, I think I'm losing my mind." "What happened?" "Daniel's been cheating, not just with one woman, but many. There are messages going back months, hotel bookings, everything. He's even been sending them money." "What do I do?" I felt oddly calm hearing this confirmation. Of course I was just one of many. It made perfect sense now. Yet somewhere deep inside, Daniel still held power over me. "Emily, what are you thinking?" Her response was firm. "I want a divorce." The word divorce hit me like a physical blow. Was this the revenge I'd wanted? "Have you told him?" "Not yet. I'm gathering evidence, planning to speak with a lawyer." I fell silent, conflicted. Once Emily left him, Daniel would be free. Would he come running back to me, or would I become just another fading memory? "Sis, I'm so scared." I swallowed hard before answering. "Do what you need to do, Emily. Don't let him make you a fool any longer." That night, I drank alone, pathetically checking my phone for messages that never came. When Emily finally confronted Daniel about the divorce, his initial shock gave way to resigned acceptance. Perhaps he too was tired of juggling his deceptions. Just when I thought the story had ended, Fate threw another twist my way. A late-night message lit up my phone. Ashley, can I see you? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. My finger hovered over the ignore button, but I found myself answering. What? His voice was thick with alcohol. I miss you. I sighed heavily. Now, you know what you mean to me, Ashley. I couldn't suppress a bitter laugh. Of course he'd come crawling back after losing everything. Yet part of me thrilled at his return. Could this be my chance for true revenge? Where are you? I asked, my voice carefully neutral. The game was about to change, and this time, I would be the one making the rules. When we met, his face showed the strain of recent events. Are you angry with me, Ashley? I met his gaze steadily. Funny how you care about feelings now. I don't have any left for you. I just want to watch you crumble. He took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaling slowly. You've heard about Emily? I'm free now. I smiled coldly. So you think you can just come running back to me? Daniel held my gaze, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I stared back with equal intensity. I'm not your backup plan. You're finished, Daniel. His expression hardened. What are you talking about? With deliberate slowness, I removed a USB drive from my bag and tossed it onto the table. He picked it up warily. What's this? My smile was razor-sharp as I answered. Every woman, every message, every hotel booking. It's all there. The color drained from his face as realization dawned. I've been collecting evidence since the day you dumped me. I knew you'd eventually come crawling back. His hands shook as he set down the drive. Ashley, you wouldn't. Rising from my seat, I delivered my parting shot. I'll have a front row seat to your downfall, Daniel. He lunged to grab me, but I was already walking away, my steps steady and sure. The desperate woman who had once begged for his love was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who would carefully plan Daniel's destruction.